So briefly speaking about myself, I'm Divya Gulati. As sir mentioned, I am a second year MBA student at IIM Bangalore. Before that, I worked as a network consultant for 3 years with Cisco Systems. I am an electronics graduate from VIT University, Vellore, passed out in 2017. So in my CAT exam, I got 97.51 percentile and got a call from almost all the IIMs of the country and some cracked other institutes like IIFT. I'm glad to tell you that I could crack all of the interviews that I sat for. So I decided to take up CAT in 2018 first, and this was my second attempt. So in my first attempt, it was not a very focused one. I just prepared for a month or two. I got a call from IIM Indore, could convert the HRM course, but I was not very keen on taking that up. So I thought that I could do more in a year. And moreover, I think that, from my first attempt to my second attempt, there were a lot of learnings that I gathered because I think CAT exam, not only tests you on the three pillars of VARC, Quant and DLR, it tests you a lot on your mental toughness, on your attitude, on your personality traits. So I think that 1 year that I dedicated to CAT preparation with my WorkX was actually a transformational journey. So it was during the WorkX that I decided, during my tenure at Cisco, I decided that my strengths aligned with MBA. I was more keen on taking up managerial work and I really need to go for an MBA role. So that's how I started, this journey. And apart from that, I spent quite some time understanding the demand of the CAT exam before venturing into all of the things. I collated all my learnings from my first attempt and applied to my second to actually make a final convert. So coming to VARC section, I think it's a pain point for most of the engineers that I know that most of my friends also struggled with that. So the way to cracking VARC is extensive practice, I would say. First of all, with this VARC section become increasingly difficult, you not only with VARC pertaining to any section. First of all, each candidate needs to understand the demand of the CAT exam. They need to understand what each section is trying to test them upon. VARC tests them upon speed and comprehension. So you need to develop that through your preparation. And the way to do that is giving 1 hour sectionals, giving topic test. Most of the people will tell you to do novel reading. I won't suggest that because it's more of a passive reading. For throughout my preparation, even if I used to get 15 minutes or half an hour, I used to do a topic test or I used to take a sectional. Now, how to actually deep dive into VARC? You have two parts, RCs and VA. Most people ignore VA. And with the increasing difficulty level in the VARC section, sometimes VA can be a very, can be an advantage for you because it is easier than the RCs. So I remember whenever I used to attempt the mocks, I used to basically have some time left I used to attempt the entire paper of VA and have some time at the end. Since the 19th paper was so difficult, by attempting, I actually understood because I gave so many number of mocks that by the time I attended that section, I understood that it is difficult and I need to be a little careful. I left one RC, I directly jumped to VA and I found that VA was easy. So actually that was a scoring, that immediately became a scoring point for me. So understanding the demand of the exam, understanding the difficulty level of the paper and tweaking your strategy then and there is the key to VARC. Now, when I focus on how to build up a strategy for VARC, what I actually did for that. So I used to do a lot of RCs and after every sectional, I actually used to diligently write down that, okay, this particular RC came in from science and technology, this RC came in from economics section, this RC came from this and this section. And once I wrote them down, I also wrote the number of correct answers and the wrong answers. So generally, you will find a pattern in your attempting way. So I was generally good with the tech articles. I was not so good with economics. So I spent some time going on web, reading a lot of economics articles or I was not comfortable with the articles which had, some kind of history. So I developed that kind of knack for myself. I went to the web, did extensive reading, got myself familiar with the terminologies and got comfortable with those articles. That was A. Second, Hindu editorial is a must, the 300 words editorial, because most of the RCs that you will find in the paper would be around 300 words only. So your mind gets trained to reading that. So Hindu editorial is a must, mocks are a must. And just like, your fingerprint is unique, so will be your strategy for VARC. And everyone needs to focus on that. For example, whenever I used to start VARC paper, I realized my concentration was pretty low. So at that point in time, I generally picked up RCs which interested me, so that my concentration level becomes very, very high by the time I attempt the other RCs. And in this section, it is also imperative for you to understand when to leave a question. And that will only come when you do active engagement and active practice of this particular section. So one thing that everyone needs to understand, as I cannot emphasize on it more, that you need to understand the demand of the section. Now, what does LRDI test for you? It tests your decision making. It tests how self-aware you are. It tests your strategy. It is not a paper, it is definitely a paper of intellect to some extent, but it's also a paper of how good you are with yourself. So the way to cracking DILR is nothing but the marks. It is because the kind of questions that you get in the mocks are very different from even what you get in the sectionals. And it is a paper of strategy, so you need to strategize very, very nicely in this section. It's the section of decision making. So right now, for example, I gave n number of mocks and I revisited those mocks. So when I revisited those mocks, I categorized my attempting pattern. I knew that, okay, tables with missing values is something I attempt very quickly. I am very quick with, a linear arrangement or with circular arrangement. And maybe I am not so good with a lot of data. So I used to prioritize my sets like that, okay, I'm really good at that and this sets look familiar to me. So I am going to attempt it first. And I used to dedicate a time that, okay, this is probably 8 minutes. If I'm not going to crack it in 7 to 8 minutes, I am moving legit to another set. Also, in the initial stages of my LRDI strategy, what I was doing, I was focusing on a set, solving all the questions of the set and then moving to another set. I realized that there are some very easy questions among sets. So what I started was I started navigating quickly. I used to see a set, I used to do maybe 3 questions which are very easy. 1 or 2 questions are difficult. I would just mark them for later. I would move to another LRDI. So I used to maximize my number of attempts in that. Even in the CAT section, even in the CAT actual paper, I got stuck at an LRDI set, which I thought that I would solve. I immediately took a decision that I'm going to drop it and I'm going to move it to another set. I'm not going to waste my time. So because if you waste initial 15-20 minutes doing nothing in the paper, it adds a lot of pressure to you in the last time. So it's a paper of strategy. When you enter the paper, you should be very well aware of, these are my strengths. These are the kind of sets I am strong with. These are the sets that I am not very much comfortable with. You need to be self-aware before you enter the exam. Your strategy should be clear. You should know when and what to attempt and when to leave. It's a paper of leaving than a paper to attempting. So first thing, again, understanding what this section demands out of you. That has been my approach throughout. This section demands a speed and accuracy. Okay, so we need to focus on that. We cannot trade off accuracy, speed for accuracy. So, or vice versa. We need to focus on them both to get a good score. Now, in this particular quant section, it is a conception that engineers are good at it. I had a hard time doing quants, and I won't lie about it. Why? Not because I was not good with the concepts, because I used to focus a lot on speed and maximizing my attempts and used to trade off accuracy in the initial fronts. So the way to go about quant is, first of all, as you said, that you need to have exceptional conceptual clarity. You need to solve every kind of questions and even revisit them. Then you need to start solving your 1 hour sectionals or your mocks, because at the end, CAT is a paper which tests you on your strategy. So you should know that, okay, I am comfortable with arithmetic, I am comfortable with algebra, I am comfortable with n number of things, and this is the way that I'm going to attempt the paper. Generally, I used to do the paper in rounds. My first round would be doing the very easy questions, and if I'm finding something difficult, I would just leave it. I would just mark it that, okay, this is my second round question. And then some questions I was like, after reading that I'll not be able to solve it, I would just leave them. So I used to go in basically iterations, and my first iterations would be getting the easiest questions in my kitty, because that's what you're there for in the paper. Second would be little questions I think would take some time, but I'll be able to solve. And the final thing would be, okay, these are the questions. If time is left, I will go about it. Again, when you move into the paper, how I prepared was that even in geometry, I knew maybe circles I'm good at, maybe this is a topic I'm really good at, and this is a topic I'm not good at. For example, I was not good at certain kind of questions in simple and compound interest, maybe installments ones. So I knew that if this is a question, I'm going to attempt it towards the end. I was very much aware about myself. The second thing is be patient, do your calculations patiently, solve previous year papers. They are a big help basically to go about it. And the good thing about maths is you can easily track what you know and what you don't know. And the final thing is do not leave any topic. Many people think that, oh, modern maths is difficult, logs are difficult, let me just leave it. But you don't know in the paper there will be a very easy question of logs versus a simple and compound interest, and you will just have to leave it because you're not covered with the concepts. So cover your syllabus properly, go in the iterations and strategize properly. That's the way about it. It is a level playing field. It's a misconception that it's a test of IQ. It is a test of how well you know about yourself. How can you maximize that score? Some people are very smart to get it easy, and also, yeah, we are moving from a very light section right now, quant heavy section right now, to a quant light section to give a level playing field to everyone. Definitely it is, and but it's all at the end about a lot of an interplay of all factors. It's not just IQ, I would say. Yes.
If a person is starting, let's say, the CAT preparation from now, that is, we are in July, and in totality, we have close to 5 months from now. So, what I should keep in mind, I'm good in basics. I have good maths basics. Have scored very well in schoolings and all, but I'm not an engineer. So, how would should I plan my strategies for every section? Right now, I have total of 5 months in front of me.
First of all, I would just say that keep this thing out of your head that engineers are the ones who crack it. Everyone can do it. It's not a tough paper. It's a paper which just tests you on different fronts. Okay, just take it like that. So, be it an engineer, non-engineer, everyone has their own share of story. Someone might be good at VARC, someone might not be good at quant, or vice versa. Everyone is struggling. So do not have that thing in mind. And no time is less for CAT preparation. Okay, no time is less. If you have right now 5 months, you are saying that you're good with basics, you're covered with basics. I would still say go over the syllabus. First of all, have a set of modules from any coaching institute and try to solve them, because that gives you an idea of what kind of questions will be asked. Just spend 1 or 2 weeks going over the questions or maybe the previous year papers to get a knack of the exam. Most people do not give marks, they procrastinate giving marks. I would say backtrack your preparation. Give a mock and then see which are the areas you really need to work on and you're comfortable with, and go forth and do it, because you are now, because you have 5 months and you cannot spend time on and on covering the syllabus. So give a mock, see that, okay, I am comfortable with algebra, I am comfortable with these things, and these things I can skip and I can focus on something which I'm not good at. Ideally, July and August should be dedicated to working on your weaknesses. Whatever are your weaknesses, do it. Okay, do n number, give a mock. It's an iterative process. Give a mock. You feel you're weak at something, go forth, give the sectional, give the topic test, do n number of questions, get back, give again, give a mock again. After that, basically September and October should be focused on dedicating on your strengths and your strategy, because weaknesses, okay, you can cover to an extent, but you should not leave out on what you're good at. You need to maximize at the end. So if you're good at something, you should make sure that I shouldn't leave any kind of question if it comes from this section. And you should work on strategizing your paper. As I told you, for me, like I am telling you that for DILR, first I used to spend time on each set, and then I used to basically do easy questions from each set. Or in quant, I used to do it in rounds. It's not that I reached on that strategy on day one. It took me 60 mocks to actually come to that strategy myself. So there's a magic number for you. A little out of context here, but I would just answer to Vipul on this front that, many people get demotivated. After giving 15 marks, they say my score is not coming. After giving 20 marks, 30 marks, they say my score is not coming. Your journey is unique. There'll be a magic number for you. As I have told to all the aspirants myself, You don't know when your score will plateau. You don't know when your score will start coming. So I remember I gave 30 mocks, and yet my performance was not improving. It was only after 33rd or 34th mock that I saw a significant increase in my performance. It took me iteration of 30 mocks or 34 mocks to actually figure out what my strategy on the final day should be. And I gave 60 mocks in total. I'm not saying you should rely on the number, because I analyzed them and revisited them also. But I'm saying that maybe these many marks work for me, and someone might get them in 5 marks, and someone might get there in 120 marks. I know people in my institute who have given 120 marks and made it. So I would just say that keep working on yourself, focus on your weaknesses first. The last part of the lab, September, October, focus on your strengths. November, consolidate everything, revisit, and be self aware. Be very confident of what you know and what you don't know when you enter that examination hall. So that's pretty much it.
My question is, what tips and tricks you shall recommend for the aspirants of CAT 2022, the mock strategies, the core areas to hit upon?
Yeah, a very valid question, Yogesh. I would just say that, first very important thing that most of the aspirants leave why you want to do an MBA. Most of the people who have reached me out on LinkedIn who were writing their SOPs were stuck on this fact that what should we write in why we want to do an MBA. And every institute, I mean, you get a call, and after a week, you have to submit your application or your SOP. In that, you have to clearly specify why you want to do an MBA and which field maybe you want to do an MBA in. And so most people are not very clear about it. So if you have not really thought through in 1 year of your preparation why you want to do an MBA, how are you going to figure it out in a week? And even if you figure it out, interviews are personality tests. How are you going to convince the interviewer that you are a right candidate? So the first thing, Yogesh, you want to do if you're aspiring for MBA is go today and write down why you want to do an MBA, which field interests you, and spend 10 to 15 minutes every day on this question till you actually get a call. Second thing, as I've mentioned before, CAT is not only an exam of VARC, DILR, and quants. As many people, you will find strategies out there. What people don't discuss is it's an exam of mental toughness. You need to have a psychological preparation for it. It's an exam for perseverance. You might not crack it in your first attempt. Are you willing to give in what it takes? Are you willing to focus on it? You have to prepare yourself for the 3 hour rigor. Okay, that you have prepared for a year, and yet your VARC section might not go good, which was your strength. How do you handle the paper at that moment? How do you manage yourself? So you need to develop that kind of emotional intelligence, which can only happen when you give n number of mocks. When you expose yourself to uncertainty out there, it's when you realize what you're good at and what you're not. Third thing I've emphasized enough, it's an exam of introspection. So throughout your preparation, I am just right now focusing on the non-technical sides of CAT right now, which are not generally discussed. So you should also be actually self-introspection. You should be very confident and aware when you enter the paper, what you're good at, what you're not. I have not seen a single underconfident candidate cracking CAT exam. And if you really need to build your confidence, preparation is the key. Prepare like you have never won before and perform like you have never lost before. Again, mocks would be the key to anything that you do in this paper, because it's the only way you're gonna, scale yourself. It's a test of uniqueness. Do not compare your journeys. Do not say someone's quant is good, someone's VRC good, and nobody gets it easy in this exam. Everyone I have met in my institute up until now has had their share of weaknesses. So with this context in mind, you should land into your preparation and focus on what are the strategies that I've focused on for VARC, DLR, and quant up until now. And you should be good.
You even mentioned one more point. It is not a, I wouldn't recommend reading. Rather, you hear every teacher, everyone saying, please read, 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 and that will help you. If reading was a key, then the English MA student should be scoring very well reading. They were reading the whole life. So my understanding is, if you will tell me, let's say if I am a layman, and if you tell me VRC strategy, if I look at a pattern, how to go about it, number one. Number two, if it is an IQ test, then how should I go about it? Because I cannot improve I can start meditation and start the IQ process upgradations. So what is the way out? If reading is not the way out, what is the way out then? Thank you.
Got it, super. Yeah. So first of all, I would want to say I never said that not reading will help you. I just said the change in how you read. You are sitting at the back of your sofa and reading a novel the entire day, it is not going to help you. Rather, you are focusing on Hindu editorial, you are focusing on New York Times, you are focusing on Economist. It makes you aware about what is happening. It is going to help you in the interviews. It helps you develop your vocabulary. It exposes you to a lot of genres. So when you read a novel, you pick a novel of your choice. That okay, I'm gonna read non-fiction, fiction or non-fiction today. But when you actually encounter the CAT paper, you have every kind of article there. As you mentioned, literature, history, any kind of article would be thrown at you, and you might not be interested in it. You might not have a comfort level in it. So, what a consolidated sectional does to you is it exposes you in an hour to 5 or 6 very varied articles. I never said you should not read. I said you should do active reading. And how will you active read when you're tested upon what you're reading? How are you tested upon when you're reading? When you're actually attempting something after reading, right? Second thing is that IQ versus pattern. Everyone has a pattern. You need to recognize, as you said, that what's the remedy to that pattern. Okay, you figured out that you are weak at economics. For example, when I found that there were some terms which were repeating all the time: Marxism, Leninism, feudalism. Generally, an article based on that kind of genre had those words. What I actually went out, I went to Google to search. I developed an understanding of these words which were constantly repeating on the articles and were nagging me. So actually, I went about doing is that now I know what these basic terminologies are. I try to develop my comfort level on it by passive reading. Maybe when I'm traveling, I have some 15 minutes, so I switch on to Economist and I read the articles, or I go to Financial Times and read a financial article to get my comfort level in that. So the passive reading has to be there in bits and pieces, and novel reading particularly I say wouldn't help because it's a very passive form of reading. And it exposes you to just one genre. Not, please don't get me wrong here. You need to read as much as you can, but it needs to be active. And it's not just an exam of IQ, it's an exam of your strategy, it's an exam of your speed plus comprehension. What are you understanding? If you're not understanding the passage in the first place, how are you actually going to solve the questions? And even in the questions, you will find a pattern. There are inference based questions, there are fact based questions, there are what does the author imply kind of questions, and you will find that you will generally get one kind of questions wrong. Okay, so you need to actually look at 5 or 6 mocks together to understand what are the kind of questions and what are the kind of RCs that you're going wrong constantly, and focus on that and then develop your skill set in it. I hope that answers your question.
My doubt is like you have had your job life and in between that you have managed to get into IIM. So how did you manage your work life and study routine? Like how should I plan mine? And because I'm also working, and after those 9-10 hours, it's really tough to study and plan all those things what you have said.
Correct. Yeah, so Swagatika, I think that you have raised a very, very relevant question, which might apply to a lot of people who have WorkX. So with WorkX, discipline is the key. When I decided that okay, when I decided to take up CAT, I decided that very day that I'm going to go to ABC. So I need to prepare like that, and I was very, very disciplined all that time, because when you're working, you have very less time left to yourself. So now what I did was, even when I'm traveling, even if I'm in office and I get 15 minutes, I used to go to a separate room and used to attempt a topic test or a sectional. So I dedicated every minute of my even office time breaks also to maximize what I want to do. And very important point here, that interviews generally are personality tests. Their interviews are not a test that you can crack maybe in a month or so. So I used to read extensively whenever I was free. If I used to get 15 minutes with someone on a chai break, I used to talk about trending technologies like 5G and all, so that when my interview comes in, I'm very well prepared. So every moment I dedicated to that. As per the time management, so what I did was I used to attempt the mock on Saturday, analyze it, attempt another mock on Sunday, analyze it, look at both the mocks, and then the entire week after working for 7-8 hours or 8-9 hours, at night I used to work on my weaknesses. So 5 days I was working on my weaknesses and capitalizing my weekends to actually do. I took leave for some time also near my CAT exam. And also one more thing, that towards the exam, I kind of increased my mocks because now I knew my weaknesses are covered. So I used to give a mock on Monday, analyze on Tuesday, give a mock on Wednesday, analyze on Thursday, keep Friday for chilling, again spend Saturday, Sunday for doing something. So it's all about discipline. It's all about how willing you are. If you really have thought that you want to land there, you will land there. Immaterial of any amount of time crunch, you will find time in bits and pieces here and there.
My question is like currently I'm holding experience in HR field, but I want to do MBA in finance. So is it right move to do like this, or I should go for only like the experience I'm holding right now?
Okay. So Reshma, I think it's a very personal call first, because it is how willing you want to switch to finance A, or how uncomfortable you are in HR. Definitely, you will have to make a very strong case for yourself by the time you enter the interview, because you're already working in the field, that why you really want to do it and what value addition will it be for you and the institute itself. Okay, it is not impossible, it is definitely possible, because MBA does not only exposes you to finance, it exposes you to the entire business cohort. So definitely you have a chance to switching, definitely you have a lot of leverage out there, but you need to make a very strong case for yourself when you enter the interview, that why you want to do what you want to do. And your preparation would definitely be driven about on the fact that how convinced you are to take up what you want. So basically, in my first attempt, I couldn't do the interview section that well. Okay. So I realized that interview, and what major mistake I did was I left my entire interview prep to last 1 month. When I'll get a call, I'll see. This is a blunder which most of the candidates do. They keep on drilling VARC, DILR and all those sections, but forget about the interview, which actually is a very major part of your conversion. In my second attempt, I knew that interview is a personality test. It is not going to happen in a month. So every day, each day, whatever extra time I used to have, even on, basically I used to cut out my social media time, or channelize my social media time to interview preparation, wherein I used to look at the past candidates experiences. I used to read extensively on current affairs. I was very much aware, so that it is very easy for me to consolidate. I used to talk to a lot of people in my organization and know about what I am doing. So basically interview is generally broken down into three parts: academics, your college life, as well as your work ex. So now different colleges focus on different areas. For example, IIM Indore interview is very acad heavy. No matter you have spent 3 years in the corporate world, they'll still ask you your undergrad basics. So you need to be brushed up on those basic concepts when you enter the interview. IIM Bangalore focuses, or other institutes focuses a lot on work ex. So I had a 45 minutes interview with IIM Bangalore on just my work ex. IIM Code, for example, tested me a lot on my current affairs and I know what I am doing. So I had written about that I was a CSR leader. So they asked me about the CSR policy of the country, and I read about it. I could tell them it comes under the Companies Act and all those things. So you need to drill down in the interview on every aspect of your life. If for example you're from Faridabad, I'm from Faridabad, so where is Faridabad, who's the MP, who's the MLA, basically a pestle analysis, complete political, economic, legal, environmental analysis of every factor of your life. And every interview experience is unique. Basically, they're testing on how confident you are. Do you know what you're doing in your life? Are you clear with what you want to do in your life? And also they check your approach. So suddenly in my IIM Lucknow interview, I was told to solve integration and differentiation, or do matrices, or some undergrad HR subject that they brought up. So at that particular point, they threw me into uncertainty and they wanted to check how I'm approaching the problem. In my IIM Indore interview, I was asked a lot about geography, lot about autonomous vehicles, lot about the things that I'd never heard of. So They was checking my approach to it. So confidence, how well do you know what you're doing, where you want to go, how sure you are you what you want to do an MBA, and finally, what's your approach to uncertainty? These are the things which are generally tested. CAT is an interplay of a lot of psychological preparation, more than it's an interplay of other factors. The basically how to deal with stress is to have a strong plan B. That I did for myself. I knew I had a job, and it's not that something I'm going to lose. I'm just doing it for my betterment. That was a very big stress buster, stress reliever. Second thing is confidence on have you utilized each and every minute that was given to you in this preparation? If you have given it honestly, diligently, and you know that there's nothing more that you could have done, I think that's a very big relief because there's nothing more you could have done. And also, I believe that when you sit in the CAT exam and there's 10 minutes to CAT exam and there's no clock, you're just sitting there and the exam is about to start. The anxiety gets into your head. What will happen? How am I going to do? We have prepared for a month and all, for a year and all. The best way to calm yourself at that particular point is to believe on your preparation. The secret to confidence, as I said, is preparation. If you're very well prepared, if you have touched good scores in mocks at times, maybe not always, if you know that you have done whatever you could have done, there's no point that you will definitely you'll be nervous, but you will not be underconfident or stressed at that point in time. I think it's a great initiative. I think it's a much required initiative. It provides access to the students who cannot afford, such kind of coaching. Coaching does help. It just does make your job easy. Depends on the individual candidate, but I really think that you guys are doing a great job. It was a gap that needed to be bridged, and I'm so glad that someone here addressed that.